In the 1960s, a new methodology emerged claiming that human beings could achieve a state of superhuman cognitive performance simply by mechanically controlling the electrical frequencies of their own brains. Launched commercially in 1966, this system is known as the Silva Method, developed by Jose Silva. Over the next 5 decades, it scaled massively, accumulating an estimated 12 million practitioners across 110 countries. At its core, the program dictates that anyone can be trained to consciously drop their brainwaves into the deeply relaxed alpha state and then actively operate within that frequency to perform high-level cognitive tasks. This central claim was actively validated by early 1970s peer-reviewed neuroscience, which proved these practitioners could manipulate their autonomic nervous systems on command. Yet, built directly into the same curriculum are advanced protocols for telepathy, remote viewing, and diagnosing medical illnesses from hundreds of miles away. This integration of the supernatural caused the mainstream scientific community to permanently brand the entire system as an occult pseudoscience. To understand how a system can be both clinically proven and empirically rejected, we have to bisect the Silva method, isolating exactly where the verifiable mechanics of applied neuroplasticity end and where the realm of metaphysics begins. Jose Silva had no formal schooling. Born into poverty, he taught himself to read and spent decades working as an electronics repairman in Texas. During the Second World War, he served in the United States Army Signal Corps. Here, routine medical processing exposed him to military psychiatrists, sparking an intense obsession with the mechanical operations of the human mind. By 1944, burdened with 10 children, he began searching for a practical psychological methodology to elevate their memory retention and academic performance. Relying on his expertise, Silva formulated an analogy based on Ohm's law. This schematic shows how reducing the resistance in a wire allows for a greater flow of electricity. Silva hypothesized the brain operated similarly. By systematically reducing neurological resistance, which he equated to psychological stress, the brain would operate with massively heightened efficiency. To do this, he needed to pull the brain out of the beta state. This is the high-frequency band of 14 to 21 cycles per second, where active, stressed, logical thought occurs. He targeted the alpha state, a slower frequency between 7 and 14 cycles per second. This is the liminal neurological zone typically associated with light sleep and deep physical relaxation. Usually, when a person reaches this cortical frequency, they lose consciousness. Silva's objective was to keep his subjects entirely awake and alert. This table compares traditional contemplative practices to his approach. Where passive meditation demands an empty mind and quiet observation, Silva engineered what he called dynamic meditation. In dynamic meditation, the practitioner utilizes the deep alpha state as an active, high-utility cognitive workspace to execute structured visualization and heuristic inquiry. By mechanizing the meditative state, Silva stripped Eastern practices of their mystical passivity and engineered a uniquely Western, highly pragmatic tool for psychological output. Maintaining active thought in the alpha state without spiking brainwaves back into beta anxiety requires rigid, step-by-step cognitive scaffolding. The foundational tool is the mental screen. Practitioners are taught to project their internal thoughts outward onto a strictly defined spatial perimeter, envisioned just beyond their closed eyelids. Externalizing thought in this spatial manner drastically reduces distracting collateral thoughts and forces the brain to sharpen the vividness of its mental imagery. Silva also integrated classical Pavlovian conditioning through what he called the 3 fingers technique. By repeatedly pressing these digits together while in deep meditation, the physical gesture becomes a somatosensory anchor. When utilized in waking, high-stress environments like a corporate boardroom, the gesture instantly signals the brain to lower its frequency and bypass anxiety-induced mental blocks. For complex problem-solving, the curriculum relies on the mirror of the mind. A practitioner visualizes their current distress in a dark blue framed mirror on their mental screen. They then physically shift the image slightly to the left, concurrently changing the frame to brilliant white, and visualize the ideal solution. This precise spatial shifting and color manipulation maps directly onto the submodalities framework that modern neuro-linguistic programming would introduce nearly a full decade later. In 1972, clinical researchers at Trinity University placed Silva graduates on EEG machines. The data proved these individuals could voluntarily produce continuous alpha rhythms on demand while actively projecting complex mental images. The front half of the Silva method is an objectively valid, highly effective synthesis of applied neuroplasticity and cognitive behavioral modification. As the practitioner advances beyond basic stress management, the curriculum evolves into complex esoterica. Silva asserted a highly specific, divided localization of human consciousness. He theorized the left hemisphere of the brain is responsible for navigating the objective dimension, the world of physical matter, logic, and the rigid constraints of linear time. The right hemisphere serves as the biological gateway to the subjective dimension. This is defined as a non-physical, energetic realm where all information across time and space is universally accessible. To access this data, practitioners build a mental laboratory within the alpha state. They furnish an imaginary room and invite specific historical or archetypal figures to serve as counselors. A clinical psychologist views this as a profound externalization of a person's own executive function. The Silva method instructs that you are communicating with actual higher universal intelligences. The pinnacle of this training culminates in a practice called caseworking, requiring the student to project their consciousness entirely outside of their physical body. Given only the name, age, gender, and geographical location of a person unknown to them, the student must intuitively scan the distant stranger's anatomy and diagnose their illnesses. The assertion that the alpha state allows human beings to physically manipulate external matter and achieve extrasensory perception is the exact moment the methodology severs its ties with biology and enters the realm of parapsychology. These claims did not emerge in a vacuum. During the Cold War era of the late 20th century, state actors like the CIA were actively funding academic research into remote viewing and telepathy, lending a veneer of institutional credibility to the frontier of the subjective dimension. Yet Silva's commercialization of distance healing drew severe, sustained backlash from mainstream academic and skeptical communities. Prominent scientific skeptic James Randi pointed out that despite thousands of students diagnosing illnesses in seminars, rigorous, double-blind, independent tests of caseworking were never successfully conducted. This flowchart illustrates a core flaw. It is inherently unfalsifiable. Successful diagnoses are claimed as definitive proof. If a diagnosis fails, the methodology attributes it to the practitioner lacking belief. By categorizing failures as lacking faith, the theory loops back, insulated from scientific refutation. Because the system rejects negative data, its supernatural dimensions cannot be empirically tested, rightfully earning its classification among orthodox scientists as an outright pseudoscience. Today, the organization maintains a massive digital footprint, strategically splitting its modern curriculum. The Silva Life system focuses entirely on pragmatic stress reduction, while spin-offs like the Ultramind system aggressively market advanced extrasensory perception. Stripped of its metaphysical claims, the method offers undeniable objective value. It remains a pioneering, verifiable tool for autonomic control, anxiety management, and focused creativity. Its primary risk lies in its presentation. By seamlessly packaging unregulated, unfalsifiable esoterica within the legitimate language of clinical science, it mainstreams magical thinking. Ultimately, the method radically democratized altered states of consciousness, taking ancient contemplative traditions, stripping away their ascetic dogma, and repurposing them for Western productivity. Jose Silva engineered a brilliant practical translation of electronic circuitry mechanics into applied neuroplasticity. The enduring controversy surrounding his work stems entirely from his refusal to accept the physical limits of the human nervous system he so brilliantly mapped.